Hello, and welcome to Mindful of Madness, a podcast about art and the artistic process. I'm your host, Andrew Ingram, a comedian, writer, mediocre player of video games. And every week, I sit down with a different artist to talk about their work and philosophy. This week, I've got the pride of Pueblo, Colorado, comedian John Brown. John runs an amazing comedy show at the Spirit House in Pueblo and is genuinely one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. You can find John on Facebook or on Twitter at John Brown Joker. As always, you can check out my comedy album, This Was a Bad Idea, everywhere music is available online, and you can follow me on Twitter at Drew Joker Ingram or on Instagram at Andrew Ingram 88. If you like the podcast, please like or subscribe or follow, rate us 5 stars, all that good stuff. Every podcast tells me to do that, so I have to imagine it helps. All right, let's get into Mindful of Madness, Episode 5, with John Brown. Tim Furlow last week, and his kid came in halfway through, and so he was trying to do all these pointing motions to try to be quiet and communicate. And I'm just like, dude, you can talk, right? I'll cut it out or I won't. But
yeah, you'll probably hear Chico walking around a little bit.
Yeah, I don't care. This is a low budget operation.
Right on.
Oh. So I'm here with John Brown. This is Mindful of Madness, the podcast.
You've come to the right place.
Yeah. It turns out, if I didn't say it in the intro, this is still Mindful of Madness. The channel didn't change. I'm here with John Brown, comedian, writer, clown.
Former clown.
Former clown. You're proud of the work, but you don't associate with it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a whole long conversation. I'm sure we'll address a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. What's your preferred title? Comedian, right?
Yeah, stand-up comic, comedian. I don't really differentiate. Some people get real snobby about that. But
it's a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I say former clown, but to me, I guess I'm still a clown at heart because that's the reason why I do comedy.
Yeah.
I think I was probably a stand-up when I was clowning because I always, I guess I should just say I used to be a birthday party clown. And I never did circus or anything like that. I would just come and do little magic tricks and twist balloons and goof around. And I always had more fun interacting with the adults. I was better at talking to the adults and stuff. And I'd hand out goodies and stuff. And the kids liked me okay, but I was always interacting with the adults.
Right.
And then
which is cheating, I think.
Kinda, yeah. It was good. It was good for marketing.
Yeah.
And I could probably work clean if I put a little bit of effort into it because of that experience. But it was just kind of a natural evolution for me. I got tired of doing the clown thing, but I still wanted to perform.
Right.
And so I got into community theater here, and that's where I met Charlie McMullen,
right,
who then turned me on to stand-up, and that was it. It was I found my thing, and that's what I want to do now.
So did you and Charlie start at the same time, or had he been doing it and asked you to come out?
Charlie started a little bit before me. I don't know exactly when he started, but I saw him perform at he was doing improv and stand up.
Yeah.
And I saw him perform at this improv show. I was writing reviews for a local arts newsletter type deal.
Yeah.
So I was going to a lot of stuff, and I saw him perform at I can't remember the name of the troupe, but Charlie was obviously the standout,
Yeah.
And but he also did some stand-up sets, and then when I met him at the theater, he was trying to start up the open mic down at the downtown bar, and invited me to come do it. And
oh, that's awesome.
I did 20 minutes for my first set.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
No.
Which I didn't realize was weird until, I mean, I caught on pretty quick.
Yeah. You could get in trouble for that.
Yeah. Well, I think I had a good experience out of the gate because my first set I did really well. It was a very friendly crowd. I knew everybody there. They were all excited and supportive. And then my second set, I ate shit so bad. I bombed so hard. And it really forced me right away to decide if I was going to take it seriously or not.
Yeah.
And I stuck with it. I'm glad I did. It's, driven my life into the rocks more than once, but why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard when you have to do it. Like, I couldn't not do it. That's the, even when shit does go down.
Yeah.
You still have to get up and do the next set.
Yeah, that's right. And that was honestly what kind of sucked the joy out of being a birthday party clown for me was when I started doing it for a living, it stopped being fun.
Right.
And stand-up, that's kind of where I'm at right now, as I'm trying to reconcile that and figure out how to navigate that.
Yeah.
Because stand-up obviously is still fun, but it also feels like a burden sometimes because it's like you have to work at it. It's not your hobby anymore. It's like, this is what you are. It's what everybody expects you to be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure, Yeah. I have these posters on the wall here. My mom comes to every single one of my shows. And
that's amazing.
These shows, the Spirit House comedy shows, she does more to promote it than I do and stuff. And it's like, man, if I was to give it up at this point, I'd be letting a lot of people down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And I'm also kind of in a crisis creatively. Yeah. Because I've been doing, I put together like a 30-minute act where I can go up and I can do really well. And that act now has become super stale. I'm tired of doing those jokes. And when I sit down to write, I'm blank. I don't,
There's nothing happening right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening right now, but it may not.
It's not stuff you want to joke about right now.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything less appealing than listening to a whole night of coronavirus jokes.
Oh, God.
My goal moving forward as I'm writing right now is to just be silly. Just do some absurdist, I'm not trying to make any points. I'm not trying to challenge anybody's ideas. I just want to be silly.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at that. So my style is way too angry, way too aggressive. I'm always really antagonistic, and so I'm having a hard time coming up with material that I'm excited about right now.
Yeah. I think everybody's feeling very emotional, and I don't know, you need some distance, or at least I need some distance to write something good.
Right.
I may not be able to write about, something.
That's your phone, not mine.
That's my phone. Oh my God. How unprofessional. It's lost my train of thought there.
I also feel this vibe of, and not to get too political, I just think right now nobody's really interested in hearing another bearded white dude talk about how things ought to be. Yeah. And so I recognize that. While I feel like I should speak up and I should, my opinions are valid, I think it's just, I'm old enough now, I think, to realize I should just bide my time and wait until somebody asks. Because there's a lot going on that I don't fully understand.
I think it's important for everybody to admit that. Right. Nobody gets this.
Yeah. And it's become such a huge, chaotic overall picture with the virus and the racial tension and all that stuff. It's all so complicated for a douchebag at a comedy club to be opining on that. It's like,
right.
For one thing, most people are like, shut the fuck, like, I'm tired of it. I'm at the comedy club to get away from that shit.
Yeah.
And you know, if events weren't as big as they are, I would kind of consider it fair game, and I might talk about it. But man, it's just, I don't even know how to approach it from my perspective.
Right. It's just going to be different after this is over, if it's ever gets to the point where it's over.
I mean, things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Things are going to be a lot different.
I think we might see a lot of good absurdist stuff coming up, though, because there's going to be a lot of that.
Right.
Like, because not everybody gets to talk about this. Yeah. You know, nobody, even if you have all the right ideals, no white guy gets to be the face of this movement. No white guy should be the face of this movement in comedy. We can wait.
Yeah.
We get to tell this story when we're old and, you know, telling youngsters about how crazy the times were, but
right.
That'll be in 20 years.
And that honestly, like, that, I feel like that puts us in a weird position, because while I'm totally supportive of, listen, I don't know how far you want to go into this, but
no, it's
seems pretty casual, so
yeah.
why not? I just feel like in our position right now, for one thing, we're being told that silence is violence. So if you don't speak up, you're on the wrong side. Right. And I agree with that, because things have gotten to a point now where you have to choose sides.
Yeah.
Period. But also, we're supposed to amplify black voices and tell black stories and all that stuff. So I picture, there's a thing that comics do a lot that drives me fucking crazy. It's when they'll say something that you cannot possibly disagree with, right, and then hold for applause. You know, like, support the troops, or how about them Broncos? Like, just all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And while I don't want to be the guy who stands up there and goes, hey guys, hashtag Black Lives Matter, and then wait for the applause break.
Right.
I see a mechanical necessity,
right,
to address the elephant in the room and then proceed. Yeah. So that's a really difficult minefield to walk. And my opinion on the issue is that, one, I've been speaking out against government overreach since I was fucking 12 years old. And two, you don't have to be a card-carrying member of Black Lives Matter to think that it's wrong for police to murder people and not be held accountable. You know, and a lot of people use the argument of, well, the police kill white people too. That's worse. Yeah. That's worse. They shouldn't be killing anybody. So anyway, to avoid, the reason I talk about it is I don't know how to talk about this stuff when you kind of have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like I'm in a position where if I want to be on a microphone in front of people, I have to address it. But I also feel like nobody is interested in what I have to say about it. So that's... Anyway.
I think you're right. I mean, I think you're right in a way, which I think maybe why everybody has to lean towards absurdism a little bit. Just because if you can reference it in the most bizarre way, you win. I don't know.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If you're getting laughs and nobody's mad at you afterwards, then
that's true.
You did a good job.
That's true. I just don't.
But then the coronavirus means we can't try stuff out. We don't get a,
That's true.
I've got a show next month. We're opening up. We get 100 people in the crowd, which is because it's a big venue.
Yeah.
And they're doing social distancing and all of that, and I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have very few opportunities to get any stage time between now and then it's like the big show.
Right.
So I got to come up with 10 minutes of fresh material.
work at the mirror if you have to. I mean, when I was getting ready for my album, I started doing that. I started doing sets for the cat.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Like, I went fucking nuts for a minute because I wanted it to be as good as I could make it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look, check it out. If you like it, tell me. If you don't, keep it to yourself. You know?
Share it anyway. So
Yeah.
maybe one of your stupid friends will like it. What's it called? This is a bad idea or something?
Yeah, this was a bad idea. Which I think what I just told you to do kind of underlines what that means.
No, I think that's a good title because it's like part of what we do is being self-deprecating, and
Yeah.
and I was leaning in a direction with limited success before all this happened of kind of focusing on things that I absolutely don't want people to know about me, and like telling secrets, bad
Yeah.
shit that I did back in the day, stuff like that, and then making jokes out of it.
Yeah.
And then if it feels better for me, I got one less skeleton in my closet, and maybe somebody else heard that shit and they're less embarrassed about something in their life.
Yeah. I think that works for you too, and I think it still could.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a little too lofty. Like I can
Yeah.
keep that in the back of my mind and just fucking write jokes. You know, I think I've been putting too much emphasis on trying to say something.
It's the one you put at the end of the album, right? Because
Right.
you've earned their respect, and then you deal with that.
That's the standing ovation bit.
Right, right. It's when people care.
Yeah.
I did that shit in the middle for some fucking reason. But
That's why I ate shit so bad on my second set is I had heard from, I think it was Louis C.K. in the early 2000s or whatever it was. He said something about take your closer and do it first.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
so everything has to get better.
Yeah, so my second set I did that. it tanked.
Yeah,
And I was like,
if you do that before you're 3 years in hitting it hard,
Yeah.
you're a psychopath.
well, you can't say I didn't jump in with both feet because I did. Yeah, it was rough because the bit did really well the first, when I closed with it, and then when I opened with it, it was blank stares and silence with a lot of the same friendly crowd that I had the first time. So it was terrifying, and I still had like another 15 minutes to go.
Oh Jesus! See, that's too much time on an open mic.
Yeah.
Like unless 3 people showed up, then everybody gets to have story time.
Yeah.
But for fuck's sake, if it's longer than 10 minutes, you're being an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Well, at that time, I want to say there was like 4 or 5 of us. It was me and Charlie, Garrett Waller,
Yeah.
Liz Benfield, and James Amos, who I don't think does comedy anymore. I haven't talked to James in a long time.
We're friends on Facebook, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, there weren't that many comics.
Yeah.
But even with 5 in the room, to give them 20 minutes each is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. I don't know if the first one was actually an open mic now that I'm thinking about it. It might have actually been like Charlie trying to produce a show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll have to ask him about that actually, but
It's pretty badass putting on a guy who's never done comedy on your book show.
yeah, Charlie's
that's pretty Charlie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Charlie's also he flies by the seat of his pants a lot. I admire it about him, and it also drives me crazy sometimes. But I'll let Charlie talk about himself when he's here.
Yeah, I wonder if I can. He's coming down to do one of your shows soon, right?
Yeah, he'll be here the last half of July.
Yeah,
And he's at Looney's the first weekend of August.
Okay.
So Charlie McMullen,
yeah.
everybody, check him out. He's
I'll get him on this.
Yeah, do because he's looking for stuff to do while he's here.
Yeah.
And I think we might be doing a Thompson Boys show.
Oh shit!
There's like 7 people in the world who give a shit about
Ooh,
that.
Daddy, I'm gonna break quarantine for that one.
Right. We might break out the vintage T-shirts that we sold 6 of. And, yeah. No. I don't know. I'm excited to get back after it because it's like the universe said, "Fuck you, John Brown."
Yeah.
Because...
But it did it to everybody at the same time.
You know, and people keep saying that, but that's no consolation. To tell me, like, hey, you're not the only one who's fucked, everybody's fucked. That doesn't make me feel better.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But no, I get it. And I'm tempted to say, fuck this, and go to Utah or somewhere where there's nothing, where there's no restrictions.
Yeah,
everybody's open up. But
just risk it.
Well, kind of. I'm tempted to do that, but I got family. You know, I got my mom's. If my mom was to get it, she would die. Like, there's just no question. And if my girlfriend was to get it, it would be questionable because they're both high risk.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just playing the role of like, well, I'll go to the grocery store for you, and I'll, you know, my mom works at the state hospital, so she works, and thankfully,
and it's dangerous work at this point.
Well, she doesn't have patient contact. She's like a administrator person, but it's still, the environment is kind of dangerous. But she's essential.
Yeah.
But they've been very, very careful, and I think they had like 2 positives among the staff, and they isolated people as they were coming in and all. Anyway, I've just been kind of sitting, waiting for... I planted flowers. I got a couple bird feeders. Aww. You know. Yeah.
I wish I had a picture of that, John Brown.
I've done a lot of psychedelics.
Nothing else to do, I guess.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, I've got to be in the right mood for that sort of stuff, and good moods are few and far between these last couple months, but I think that honestly helps a little bit to
just get weird for a minute.
Yep.
Reset.
Figure out it stimulates creativity a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Normally I would use weed for that, but my weed dependency is so crazy now that it's kind of just my baseline. So it used to be I would smoke up and then start writing, and then come back later when I wasn't high and rewrite it.
Right.
And now it's I smoke up and get caught up on watching YouTube videos, and I'm the laziest writer you've ever met. So I almost corrected you when we started because you said comedian, writer. I'm like, not really.
You've written things. You've written like movies and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but writer, I don't think is. I think my primary thing is comedian. Yeah. And even if I'm breaking it down even more granular, I'm a clown. I'm a clown at heart. Because I was always the class clown. I was always the guy popping off in the staff meetings and shit. Like, I never had much respect for authority, so I'm always been, making fun of the teacher and the person. Mm-hmm. And I was a straight up bully in high school and stuff. I'm not even gonna mince words about that. I was an awful human being. And
you've talked about that on stage some.
Yeah. I try to address it because, but I also backed away from that because I felt like I was coming off as like the failed jock, peaked in high school type of guy, and which is pretty much what I am, but that's a little too close to home for. But yeah, I felt like my material was like too much emphasis on that stuff.
Right.
Even though that's where I was talking about like my skeletons in my closet, that's where most of my guilt comes from. If I carry guilt around, it's from that period of time. Because I feel like I don't know what it was. I just like at some point figured out what a piece of shit I was, and I started apologizing to people and just having conversations and stuff, and really tried to turn that around.
When do you think that happened?
Pretty much right after high school, I think.
Yeah.
And I think being a juggalo actually kind of helped with that, honestly. 'Cause,
that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand why you would think that. But when you really get deep into their music and stuff, and I'm not going to defend them quality wise and all that. It's stupid. It's schlocky. It's fucking dumb. But they've always been anti-racist. They've always been anti-violence against women. Even though they'll talk about bitch and objectify women and all that stuff, they do that. Not defending that, but they speak out against like domestic violence and stuff.
Right.
And they also were like they kind of defend the quiet nerdy kid in the back of the room. And when you actually interact with juggalos, that's who most of them are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wannabe gangbanger shit. Like back when I was involved, I'm the old school guy. It was like 97. I started listening to them, and it was a much smaller group. When they started selling their shit at Hot Topic and stuff, that's when it got real kind of stupid and commercial. And
make them some money finally, though.
For sure. Well, and they were doing pretty good because they were totally independent.
Right.
So money-wise, they weren't having any issues. They would do shit like they would build a haunted house in a semi-trailer and take that thing around tour. You go through the little haunted house and get an autograph at the
That's
end
awesome.
of it. It was dope. I mean, it was so fun to be a juggalo during that time. And then after a while, it got not fun anymore. Right. And I started, I was in my 30s by the time I got out of it. I was like 32 years old.
Yeah.
And no, that's not quite accurate. 2006, I was probably like 28.
Yeah.
28, I started working at Independent Records. And I was kind of like the Juggalo ambassador for Independent Records. I would organize autograph signings and stuff. And they released, it was another artist on the same label released an album.
Yeah.
And I had to organize like a midnight sale, and I promoted it to the Juggalos and all that. And while I was getting ready to open up the store for the midnight sale, I put the album on, and it was garbage.
Oh, no.
I hated it. And the whole time it's playing, and everybody's all excited. And I'm not even going to name them because they're from Denver, but the artists it was bad. The album was bad.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much when I was like, all right, I'm going to start kind of distancing myself from this. I think part of it is, it's always kind of with me, and I still kind of keep tabs on what they have going on. And I have a lot of friends from those days and stuff. But
have you gone to a show since you've kind of backed off?
Not recent. No, I can't remember the last. I've done some local artist stuff with people that I know from those times, because and some of those guys are legit, like really good rappers, and they have potential to go somewhere. But it's also, it kind of gives me that taste of like, this is what Juggalo life was like.
Right.
So I get to do stand up at those things, or I can host it. Like I did play by play at a backyard wrestling event one time, and one of my comedy goals is to do stand up at the gathering of the Juggalos.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be terrified. I would be bad at it.
I'd take you. I'd take you. People, I don't know. It's weird because like, I think Juggalos are misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, they just want to be good, cool people and just be accepted for what they're about. But there's a lot of dumb shit that goes on too.
Well, there's kind of a uniform to it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what most people respond to negatively. It's like everybody's got their face painted. Mm-hmm. It feels a little cultish,
right?
To like from an outside perspective.
Oh yeah, no, it's they frame it as a religion.
Yeah,
like they talk about the Six Jokers card and the Dark Carnival's like retribution and all this shit. It's like a fantasy story, but the way they talk about it, there's a whole mythology and stuff behind it. And at the end, you'll like this actually. At the end, they built up these 6 Jokers cards, and each one had a character, and they were all like circus figures. And anyway, the 6 Jokers card was the Wraith, which is basically like a Grim Reaper character or whatever. And the very last track on that last album, they were like, the carnival is God, and basically just were like, haha, it's a Christian thing. Like, this is all an allegory for Christianity. And they were like, we don't care if we tricked you. It was kind of awesome. Like, I was listening to it, I was laughing my ass off. And a lot of people got mad. And
really?
It kind of, yeah, because they did 2 releases. It was the Wraith Shangri-La, that was like the heaven, and then there was the Wraith Hell's Pit, and that album came out after they did the whole reveal, but it was actually more in keeping with like the darker, evil tone of what they had been doing. The Shangri-La album was all kind of happy, poppy, more funny than anything. Yeah. This one was like fucking murdering priests and shit. It was rough. And so it was a strange time. Right. It was like, what the fuck? How are people going to react to this? I thought it was kind of bold, artistically, based on what they had done up to then, you know.
Yeah, to have concepts and shit.
Right. And so what they, what I take away from those guys, though, is just the independent, like, doing what the fuck you want to do. Yeah. Being in charge of your shit, owning your shit, and building your audience. Yeah. And so that, you know, I try to take inspiration from them that way. Right. You know, say what you want negatively about them, and I'll agree with most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a very punk rock ethos. Sure. You know, which is what I came up with was, you know, I came to it a little late, but, you know, by the time I got to college out of high school, I was very deep into punk rock, you know, and I think a lot of that came back, you know, when I got out of the Army and I realized I can just do shit on my own. Right. You know, because of punk rock. If I hadn't had that background, I never would have done comedy.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I turned clowning into a business, because if it hadn't been for being a juggalo, I wouldn't have gotten interested in being a birthday party clown. Because the clown
That's a very interesting sentence.
It's
and
totally true. It's totally true, because I met a guy who spotted me as a juggalo. He's like, oh, you into clowns? Let me tell you some stories, because he was a birthday party clown.
Oh, okay.
And he's the one that turned me onto it. So if it hadn't been for being a juggalo, I wouldn't have become a birthday party clown. And at some point in doing that, my ex-wife and I, we started making real money, getting booked out for events and festivals and things. Yeah. And I kind of turned to her one night. We spent a weekend in Denver going to a concert, and we had all new T-shirts and all this shit. And I said, you know, if we put the effort and energy of being juggalos into our own business, like, we could really do something here. Yeah. And so that pretty much was where it was like, all right, we don't go to concerts anymore. We still listen to the music and all that stuff, but we started to change it up a little bit. Yeah. And I think that was a big turning point for us, both of us, because she still clowns. She won a medal at the World Clown Association convention. Crazy. Yeah, that's a big deal, which I'm kind of glad that I got out when I did, because it started to get kind of depressing when we got divorced, and I don't want to, we won't go too deep into that, but for me...
You didn't want to fuck with those people anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. For me, it was, I got to where I would put on the makeup and I would just start going like, ugh, fuck, I got to do this all day. And I just didn't have the juice for it. Yeah. And so I just didn't want to do it anymore. I forget where I was leading with that, but she kept going. Yeah. And I'm glad I got out when I did, because then shortly after that, people started showing up in neighborhoods in the middle of the night in clown costumes and stuff. And,
yeah. I thought that was awesome. I'm going to be honest. I thought it was awesome.
You know what? I did too at first. I totally was like, I would do that 100%. And I have offered to, like, you got a friend that's afraid of clowns, I'll show up and fuck with them for if the price is right. I've offered to do that, but I'm glad I wasn't in the business anymore. Right. Because that shit was bad for business. They're super like, if you make your living handing out business cards in a clown costume like I did, that was a bad time to be in that business, because nobody was going to hire clowns unless they were hiring them specifically to be scary. And a lot of people, like, I was totally anti-scary clown when I was from that angle. I would tell people like, yeah, don't fuck with this scary clown thing because it's bad for business. That's how I make my money. And I was big on, if somebody said they were afraid of clowns, I would try and bring them over. I'd be like, here's where the makeup ends. See, look, my nose comes off. Like, I'm just a dude, you know, I'm just trying to have fun. And my goal was to take a picture with them. And that's
right.
It. But then every once in a while, if there was a teenager or something, I'd go chase them down the mall, you know. Because it was just about being fucking weird and having fun and being crazy, you know.
I mean, it's improv, at its rawest form.
Yeah, you got to be quick on your toes for sure. Because people, well, not as much as you think.
No,
it's about putting in hours. You know?
Okay.
Because people aren't that creative for the most part. Very rarely will you be out in public and somebody walks by and says something you haven't heard before. Mm-hmm. Once you've been doing it for a little while, you know, people would say, "Hey, quit clowning around," fucking 50 times a day.
Oh God.
If I was doing like the Chilean Frijole Festival and there's thousands of people walking by all day, I'd hear it 100 times. And so you start.
That sounds awful. If I got the same heckle over and over and over again, I would shoot someone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the more you do it, the more you will start getting the same heckle. And that's the thing. It's I think it gave me a head start for stand-up. Yeah. Because you can't be more embarrassed. You know, you can't be embarrassed after doing that.
Right.
It like wired.
Your clowning was my low self-esteem. I just didn't care if I was bad.
Well, it wired me for being used to being the center of attention.
Right.
When there's a lot of people around. And then also, you know, nobody's stomping on my shoes and punching me in the nuts, and nobody's, you know, complaining that the magic show was too short. And the stand-up is easier than doing clowning. And maybe that's just for me, you know, I don't know. But I don't have to paint my face. I don't have a $1,000 costume. I don't have all this gear I have to haul around. I just show up and do like a distilled version of what I was already doing. Yeah. So I think it really was a godsend, because when I got divorced, I felt like clowning was one of the things that I lost in my divorce. Because I had kind of decided this is what I'm going to do. We had a business. It was just I was going to be a clown for the rest of my life. And the divorce kind of hurt that. It was just like I don't want to say she took it away, but the circumstances just made it really logistically and emotionally difficult for me to keep doing it. Yeah. So I had to find something else to do. And I don't make near as much money doing stand-up, but it's a lot more fulfilling, for sure. It's way more fulfilling.
Yeah. Were you starting to do theater when you were still clowning, or was that after?
There was very little overlap. I was aware of the local theater because I was a member of the Performing Arts Guild down here, and there was a lot of networking and stuff going on. So I was writing reviews, and so I had become aware of the local theater, and I made friends with a lot of those folks. And so when I got divorced, basically I just shifted everything over from clowning into, well, now I participate in this theater, and I did like 4 or 5 shows in a row, and just on, you know, different. I didn't act until way later, but I was involved. Yeah. And so, I was still kind of limping along doing a few birthday parties here and there, but theater takes up a lot of time. If you've ever done it, there's not a lot of room for anything else, especially if you work. So theater just kind of became the thing.
Yeah. I did high school theater, and I really liked it. And now I can't imagine acting ever again.
Really?
Like, no, I just don't think I have anything interesting to do on screen. I'd love to write fucking movie, you know, but I don't need to be in it.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, I want to direct a film. I've got like 2/3 of a script, maybe 3/4 of a script that I was working on because I've always wanted to. I've done a lot of short film stuff, but nothing that's a horror movie. I'm a horror movie fan from back in the day, so that's always been kind of a dream of mine to make a horror movie. And I've been writing the script with my buddy Rob, and it's so close to being done. I'm just like stuck on this scene where I don't know how to write this scene. It's like a fight scene, and I don't want to just go, they fight and then move on. So
would location scouting help? Like if you found this, or like going to the space and looking at the space where this would get shot?
Maybe that might be a good idea, actually, because we wrote it with the Spirit House in mind.
Right. I think you were telling me about this a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty small, it's set in a strip club. Yeah. It's something I've never seen before, which is a slasher movie set in a strip club. Mm-hmm. So it's like closing. I don't want to get too much into the pitch, but it's like closing time at the strip club and murders happen.
Oh, cool.
So the scene I'm stuck on is there's like a fight in the parking lot. It's like there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and so I don't want to. I need to sit down and just focus on it and draw diagrams or whatever I need to do and just get it done. Because once I get over the hump of that scene, then the rest of it is just it'll flow. And I want to actually direct that.
Yeah.
But my problem right now, and I'm calling out all of my filmmaker friends in Pueblo and Colorado Springs, is you motherfuckers don't return messages. You're unreliable. Like, you want to make shit, let's make shit. I need camera crew. I need sound people, editors, whatever. Let's make a movie. But that was kind of one of my goals when I moved back to Pueblo, is I wanted to participate in a play, which I did. And I wanted to start my own show, which I did. And the next thing was write, and I wanted to finish the script first. And then try and get it made. Yeah. But finishing the script would be a big milestone for me, because I've never written a full like screenplay.
Right.
I've written a lot of short stories and material and shit like that, but I've never written like a screenplay.
Yeah.
And this one, I'm pretty proud of where it's at now.
Yeah.
It's a sleazy, disgusting horror movie. I think it's pro-feminist.
Okay.
So they are strippers.
Are you going to get a sensitivity read on it before you go out?
I'm not going to focus group it. I want to make it really like trauma, shocky.
Yeah.
If we step on some PC toes, I'm okay with that, but we're not going to go over the top,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a creepy rapist guy, and he gets his just desserts, and so it's the I don't want to give too much away, but the villain is a female. The ultimate like killer is a female, and we were gonna go crazy with it. Like at one point, we were gonna have like, you think it's a man, but it's revealed to actually be a woman, and it's like this whole transgender thing, and it was going to be like some
maybe too spicy.
Well, I was consulting with some people. I asked the right folks, and they were like, "Yeah, maybe not," because that's part of. I think it's just a failing in my mind, and I've always been like this. In the attempt of being funny, I push it too far, and I'll say something that I don't mean,
right? But
it's terrible, And anybody that's ever had a conversation with me, I've been on my best behavior today. But like I remember I was at dinner with my girlfriend one night and her sister one night, and they were talking about, a friend of a friend is getting married, and her son is 12 years old and his daughter is 17 years old. And I was like, oh, he's going to be sniffing her panties, dude. Like, keeping up. And they were like, you shut your mouth. And I'm like, but he's 12 years old. Like, he's right there. And I was like, is she hot? I bet she's hot too. And they're like, she's 17. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. There's lines like I try to be inappropriate for humor's sake, but
right.
No.
Well, everybody does it. Like, even comics do it more often than normal people, but normal people do it. People get in trouble every day on Facebook for just one step too far or 7 steps too far because you were trying to exaggerate.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say things that I actually mean, but I'll say it in a really aggressive way.
Yeah.
Like, we mentioned that I saw Caesar at the protest. Caesar and I had a falling out real bad.
Yeah.
Because when Kobe Bryant died, I said, sorry, don't give a fuck about a millionaire rapist. Millions of people die every day. Who gives a shit? And Caesar took that pretty hard. He did not like it.
No, he didn't like it. He didn't like it that day.
Yeah. I said it that day. So it was not cool for me to do it, but whatever. That's how I get down. And when I saw him at the protest, it was like, okay, there's Caesar. I just hugged Alyssa, and I just, without hesitation, I was like, all right, let's do it. And we hugged, and I said in his ear, I was like, I'm still all about fuck Kobe Bryant. I was like, but we got other shit going on right now, so let's have some solidarity. And that's kind of been my thing, like, this whole time. Like, there's enough common ground going on here that I think people need to get involved.
Get over their shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a good growth moment for everybody.
Right.
You know, is it regardless of who you are or what side of this you're on, you're gonna learn some shit.
Yeah. Well, and I can't speak for Caesar. I don't know if I'm cool with him after that, but
I think you guys are cool. I've seen Caesar. He said you guys made up.
And we had lunch after. It was the whitest shit ever. We're at the Black Lives Matter protest, and we're I don't chant. I'm a terrible chanter. I don't participate in chants because I always go 2 times more than everybody else does, and I look like an asshole. So, anyway, we're at the thing, and everybody's. It seemed to be breaking up. They were saying it was over. People were going home. So we went down the street and we sat down somewhere and we ate $15 hamburgers and drank whiskey and talked about the state of the world.
Dear God.
Yeah, it was. I commented on it. I was like,
you're a New Yorker cartoon.
Yeah. I'm like, this is some white privilege shit right here. It was like Caesar was the most ethnic one there. It was me and JT and Sam and Alyssa and Tracy and we're sitting there fucking drinking whiskey and Moscow mules.
You and Alyssa are the straightest and whitest there. So you're.
But I mean, she's on fire for this movement.
Oh man, it's been weird because she never posts anything on Facebook, and then suddenly it's all this burn the government to the ground shit. I'm like, what is happening?
People are starting to come around to my way of thinking, Andrew. It's about damn time. I don't know, man. It's a weird time to try and be a comic, especially a straight white comic.
Yeah, well,
and I'm not devaluing my own voice. I just don't feel like now is my moment. You know,
right? I think it's just got to be like fucking 80s it up for a minute. You can talk about yourself. You can talk about your family.
Right.
You know, you can talk about what being in isolation is like, but everybody has that. I just don't think quarantine's going to be an interesting topic.
No.
I don't.
No, I don't think I'll be talking about that at all. And I do have... So let me ask you something. Since we're talking about the process here. You've heard the story of when I was in high school and the guy told the racist joke. I told it at your Gallery Below show.
I think so, but you can run it again.
Well... The gist is a guy told a racist joke against Mexicans during a talent show, and it basically popped off into a race war.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Not a race war, but like a race riot. Like,
it
was
Mexican kids. Your high school, right?
Yes, it was Mexican kids facing off against white kids, and obviously I'm white, and I'm face-to-face with this kid, and I was like, what's the problem? It's a joke. And he said, I'm proud of my race, viva la raza. And I was like, well, we're proud of our race too. And I said, white pride. And I threw up a black power fist, and I got tackled by the cops and thrown in the back of a car for inciting a riot. And thankfully I didn't get charged, but it was hairy.
Yeah.
And I told that story because I preface it, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to tell you guys the second worst thing I ever did, and I tell a whole different story, and then I'm going to tell you the worst thing I ever did, and then I tell that story. And I think if I'm going to tell any story that addresses this issue at all, I'm going to tell that one. And if I tell that story, what do you think would be the general response?
I mean, I think there's a value in owning your own shit.
Uh-huh.
You know, I think there's still value there. That being said, I'll hear somebody explain why I'm wrong and then totally get it.
Right.
You know, like I think you're fine. I do like the story. It's a good story. I think there's humor and catharsis there, which is good. I maybe you have something else after, like not a disclaimer, but like
well,
work on a dismount into something else.
The way I close it out is the cops were there. They didn't do anything when the kid was beating on his chest going "Viva la Raza." They didn't do anything when I was saying white pride, but when I threw up that black power fist, that's when they got my ass. So you know where their priorities are.
Yeah, I mean that's a good punchline.
Right.
You know, you're never gonna know until you try it again.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the kind of joke you should leave out of your act, I don't think. But,
no, I think it's really valuable. It was one of my favorite pieces of more recent material. But
yeah.
I hate having to question the timing and like, oh shit, how are people going to react, you know?
Right.
Because, you know, you say there's value in people owning their shit, but I wonder if we've come to a place where owning your shit just means you're a piece of shit now. Because, like, when... I don't know, like Liam Neeson did that. Did you remember that story?
I saw. Yes, and it's such an awkward old man thing to do.
It was a little tone deaf, but I think his heart was in the right place, and I found that.
I don't think he's canceled anymore. I think they canceled him for a month. And,
yeah,
you know, they gave him a continuance on his canceling.
Yeah,
till next time.
And I'm not gonna be one of those guys that's like, oh, these fucking snowflake SJWs. Like, I totally understand if that kind of language is hurtful to you and stuff, but
yeah.
you also have to acknowledge the existence of it in order to. I don't know. I feel like for racial tension to ease, there needs to be more communication between the races, not less.
Yeah.
And for the communication to be proper, we have to be really honest about where we're coming from. You know,
yeah.
I haven't really interacted with African American people probably
outside of comedy.
It's a very small percentage, yeah. And when I moved to Denver for a little while, I specifically moved somewhere where they told me this is a black neighborhood because I wanted more of that experience. And it was that was an interesting move to make as a white guy living by myself, because there was some open hostility towards me being there.
Yeah.
And you know, some crazy shit went down in that neighborhood, but
I stayed in that apartment. You didn't tell me that shit.
That's right, you did. I forgot about that. No, it was fine. I wouldn't say it was an unsafe neighborhood, but people talk shit to me, and you know, I saw some things that I was like, God damn, never seen anything like that in Pueblo, you know. But there's not a huge black community in Pueblo, and I've lived here for 30 something years, so my interaction with that culture has been very outside.
Right.
You know, I've always been. Are you on a time limit or anything?
No.
I've always been a fan.
Yeah.
You know, I love rap music and all that stuff, like all the basic white guy stuff of my age.
Right.
You know, I'm like, what the hell, man? I saw Dangerous Minds. You know, I'm on your side. And I don't know. I just try to be more observant and like I said, find the common ground. But just recently, that poster right there with Brian Sullivan on it.
Yeah.
At that show, this guy came up to Brian after the show and big red-faced redneck dude. He's drunk out of his mind.
Yeah.
He's like, I got a joke for you.
Oh, God.
And you know exactly what kind of joke he was telling. And when the punchline hit and he said what everybody was afraid he was going to say, I looked at Brian and I said, please don't hit him.
Yeah.
And...
because Brian will.
Well, he handled himself really well, but I could tell he was pissed.
Yeah.
And now, I think if it was to happen today,
yeah,
I'd hit the guy myself.
Right.
Because I was furious with him.
Yeah.
Just for treating my guest that way.
Yeah.
And regardless of, it was really awkward because I wanted to apologize to Brian, but I didn't want to make it about me. And, I kicked the guy out, told him he wasn't welcome back, and that's it. But I felt like putting it on Brian to do the right thing in that scenario.
Right.
I felt like an asshole. And I have felt like an asshole since. And so, and I even reached out to Brian and let him know. I was like, hey, man, that was a learning experience for me. I don't know how valuable this is to you, but I learned something right then.
Right.
I know I'm not a pro-violence type of dude, but you don't talk to my guests that way.
Right.
But when I'm at the Spirit House, you're in my house.
Yeah. And
I want everybody to be happy, and I want everybody to feel good. And Brian was my guest, and that was extremely disrespectful.
Yeah. Fuck.
It was.
I'm glad it happened after the show.
Yeah.
Like that just gives the room a weird vibe before a show.
Yeah.
But shit, man, that sucks.
Well, and you could see it on his face. Just that mischievous, like, I'm
going to get away with it.
Yeah, yeah. It was the most, well, I shouldn't say that. It was the most overtly racist thing I've seen happen right in front of my eyes for a long time.
Yeah.
There was some pretty ugly shit back in the day. But anyway, let's... Speaking of escaping from all of that, I'm going to light this joint.
Yeah.
That got heavy for a minute.
You do you, baby boy. Okay. I'm all good.
I'm going to preemptively apologize for any coughing that might happen in the next few minutes.
It doesn't matter.
So let's change the subject, Andrew.
Yeah, let's move it from race to money.
I hope I didn't embarrass myself and get myself canceled.
I'm sure we both did, so it's fine.
Right, okay.
Look, if somebody needs to cancel me in the next year,
I went back.
I'm fine.
I went back.
Do it if you need to.
I went back through my Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I just retweeted old tweets. I'm like, in case anybody's looking to ruin my career, here's an old tweet.
I didn't even see that. I gotta get better at my Twitter algorithm because I don't see a lot of local comics on it because I don't use Twitter right.
I don't think that I get a lot of visibility because I'm almost never on Twitter.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
I get on Twitter when I'm on a Facebook ban. If I'm in trouble on Facebook, that's when I'm on Twitter.
Yeah. Those have been relaxing lately. You and JT are hardly ever getting banned anymore.
Yeah, I started being a little bit more careful about specific things that I would say. Because the last time I got banned, I said something along the lines of like, yeah, fuck white people, we should just round them up and murder them. Because somebody said something about like all white people are bastards or some, just something really
right. So you're not helping, you're just being persnickety.
Yeah, I was being super sarcastic and facetious and just kind of calling somebody out for like, do you realize what you're doing right now when you say something like that? I don't think that kind of shit helps, but we're getting back into the race thing. So, I try to stay active on Facebook because that's where most of my promotion comes.
Yeah.
Especially now that we're doing online ticket sales only.
Yeah.
There's no physical ticket sales for this next couple of shows because of the goddamn coronavirus. So,
yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to know about money, dude? You said you want to have a conversation about money at the end.
Yeah. Just because it's weird and people don't do it. So
okay.
How do you approach earning in stand up? Do you have? I mean, we already talked about being DIY. But you put on your own shows. You do work clubs, but you put on a lot of your own shows.
Yeah.
So what's kind of the ethos behind how you you approach monetizing art?
Well, I'm kind of just now starting to figure that stuff out, because up till now I've pretty much just been like take what I can get kind of deal.
Yeah.
At some point, if you're driving across the state or out of state, you got to at least get your gas money.
Yeah.
But now I'm to a point where I have to kind of figure out incorporating. I know I have, because of my expenses, I know how much I have to make per month and all that. And then the challenge becomes being worth that number.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so if somebody books you and you're only worth $100, but you need to make $250, you got to work on your act.
Right.
And that's that's where I take a lot of guidance from John Stringer. He doesn't know it, but he's a mentor of mine. And because that guy,
he's a fucking machine.
Yes,
he works hard.
He's a hard worker. He does sets that you would hear other comedians shitting on. He'll do a set wherever.
Yeah.
He's happy to do anything from headlining a huge theater to, cruise ship to little bar show. He'll go, he always works, and he crushes in a very, that dude crushes in a way that builds a fan base.
Yeah.
He has stuff that's
no, it feels so polished. The punk in me is angry, but it's so good anyway.
Yeah. And I think he took offense one time because I said something about one of his bits. I was like, it was one of those bits that's right there and you wish you would have thought of it.
Yeah.
And I think he took it as I was telling him as an obvious bit or as a hack premise or something.
Right.
But that was not it at all. I was totally that's a t-shirt bit.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting to that spot where I'm trying to, all right, how do I build a fan base with this shit?
Right.
And that means that I'm going to have to be a lot less antagonistic, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards the absurd thing. So it's kind of a marketing. I'm trying to figure out how to make myself more marketable and still stay true to who I am. So money-wise, how do I approach earning? Well, with the Spirit House, we said we're going to do a year. Well, we did 3 months. And then once the 3 months was successful, we said, all right, we're going to do the rest of the year. And they give me a budget, which we negotiated. Mm-hmm. I said, with comedy shows, it's the more money you spend, the better the show's going to be.
Right.
And that's just how it works.
Right.
Because the higher level headliners are going to demand more money.
Yeah.
And that's it. Especially somebody who has a fan base and they're going to draw just because their face is on the poster. God love all of these people here.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I hang up any of these faces in Pueblo. Now maybe, because people have seen them.
I was going to say, Mike and Sam certainly.
Yes.
Somebody's going to show up.
Yeah, there's definitely a fan base for Sam Talent here, because Sam Talent has done several shows in Pueblo. And that's one of the reasons why I'm booking the specific people that I am. Because I know that these people are legit comics and they deserve to... They're trying to do it on a professional level, and they deserve to be building their fan base.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to bring a quality show for up-and-comers. And I got people that are up-and-comers and also people that have been doing it forever coming up on my calendar that I'm excited about. And so...
all of your features are killers.
Right.
Your headliners are very, very good.
Yeah. And that's been the whole goal all along is this show specifically, I wanted to build a high-quality show that is affordable to the audience. So I work really hard to keep the ticket price low and figure out other ways to make money with it. So I sell these posters. We all sign the posters and people can buy them. I had stickers. Merch is huge. Yeah. Merch is huge. The night that Al Goodwin... I need to step up my merch game.
Oh, yeah. Al's is great.
Speaking of, T-shirt jokes, Al has a couple of crusher bits, and he has T-shirts that are tied to those bits.
Yeah.
And he made 10 times on T-shirts what I paid him for doing the show.
Wow.
He murdered on the t-shirts after the show, taking pictures with people and stuff, and I was like, holy shit, if I was selling that many t-shirts, I'd be doing this for a living. That's just all it is. If he's doing that every weekend, he's doing great. That's exactly where, like, that's my goal. That's where I want to be. Is that level of
the rent's paid, the plumbing's not overdue.
Maybe I got some credits. I don't give a shit, but I just murdered and I made a bunch of money. You know, that's all I need. I need enough cash to get me over to the next one. You know, but right before the coronavirus hit, I had kind of decided it's time for me to change my direction. I'm gonna start going on the road. I've got some retirement money sitting out there that I can lean on for a while, and I was just gonna take a stab at hitting clubs around the country and just trying to get my foot in and get started. And then the coronavirus happened and everything stopped. So I've just been kind of twiddling my thumbs waiting for things to start up again. I should have been writing material all this time, but of course I wasn't.
Well, this is depressing shit. I mean, I think, if anything, we got to go internal because there's nothing else to write about.
Right.
There just isn't.
Or just go surreal, absurd. Just talk about something else. Talk about something that doesn't exist.
Fucking Q-tips, if you can, make a Q-tip bit. I don't know. You do it.
What? So. Like, you have regular shows and stuff. How are and you are pretty consistent with paying.
Yes.
So I mean, how do you approach it? Do you pay people differently, or do you?
I try to be upfront at the beginning of every show. I can guarantee this amount of money.
Right.
Even if we don't sell that many tickets, you will make this money. And anything above that, this is how we split it.
Right.
And I go through that with kind of everybody on a thread before the show, because I just want to be upfront with people, and I want, and it's understood. I explain, hey, if you're a Springs comic, you're not going to make as much as somebody coming from Pueblo or Denver because they got gas.
And that totally makes sense, yeah.
Even if they're, like, I may pay the feature. If you're coming up to feature for somebody from Denver, I'm going to pay you more than... Or if you're coming up to feature for somebody from the Springs, I'd probably pay you the same.
Right.
Because you made the drive.
Right.
But we haven't had an underdrawn show in about a year.
Yeah. No, that show. I'm really happy that show's successful because it's a good show. That's one of my favorite shows that has been going for a long time.
Yeah.
And I've had enough bad experiences. It's all, you just have to be, one, you have to be transparent.
Yeah.
And you also have to be you have to have integrity.
Yeah.
If you tell people, like, if I tell somebody I'm going to pay you $200 for this set, because that's what I pay my headliners, and I don't mind putting that out there. I pay headliners $200. So if you think you're a headliner and you want $200, hit me up. Because when we were doing shows back in the day, we would do the pay based on the door.
Right.
And when you have unscrupulous people either working the door or the club itself or whatever, and I'm dancing around naming names and stuff, then the pay can be inconsistent.
Yeah.
And there was more than one time where we were on the hook for good chunks of money, and I was left holding the bag and having to go, sorry guys, it's just not there. I don't know. I don't know who told you what. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think changed? Because that was shows in the Pueblo, Colorado Springs scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was every show for a while.
Yeah.
Or every other show. When I was doing Comedy Ray Gun with Ryan Pacheco, we would have a really good show.
Right.
And then the next show would be nothing. And then a really good show. And then an okay show. And then nothing. And then a really good show. And then we just had to stop doing it because we weren't being consistent enough. But we weren't doing anything different other than promoting a little more every time.
Yeah.
You know, but now my show's running great. I'm not doing anything drastically different than when we were running that show, but my show's doing great. Spirit House is great. Oscar Blues is great.
Yeah.
You know, they've cultivated an audience there.
Well, I think I'll say this one about you and Ryan Pacheco both. You're both better comics.
Well, okay, fair.
You both have more experience running shows. So, you know, the nuts and bolts of putting a show together come easier to you. So, I think the quality of the comedy has gone up.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think people have finally started to notice, holy shit, we got like some legit comedy here.
Yeah.
And that was always something that was always a goal with everybody that I worked with, whether it was Steel City Stand Up way back in the day, or the Thompson Boys, or Comedy Anarchy. It was always about like, we have to beat the bushes and find, one, we have to develop the comics that we have.
Right.
And at least the ones that we see potential in. Not that it's our business to do that, but
it is, because if the scene's better, more people will come to shows.
Right.
You know, and even if you're a selfish prick, there's still reasons to help out.
Yeah. So I've always been about I might not like a person, and I might not like your fucking act, but I'll be honest about both of those things.
Right.
And but I've always been about people getting better at comedy, because if you're better at it, that forces me to be better at it. Like, I had a huge surge in my act when Wade and I like had a big falling out and everything was fucked up. I took like a month off. I was like, fuck, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And then he started doing comedy in Pueblo with John Bueno and Paul Rosales and Clint. And they were all like, holy shit, these guys they're fucking funny. Where the hell were these guys? Yeah. And so I felt like I had to step on the gas a little bit to keep up. Yeah. So the better the comedy is, the better it's going to be. And the more you do it, the more you're going to do it.
Right.
And that's always been something that I said, even back in the clowning days. The more we do it, the more we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's changed. I think we stuck to it long enough and learned enough lessons and figured out how to have good sets. And
I mean, it's interesting. I feel like right when I started, a couple good open mics started up.
Yeah.
And those lasted for long enough for some of us to not quit.
Yeah.
And then the open mics there got to be more open mics. We got to work more. Then shows started popping up a lot more often. Yeah. Most of them were bad, but they were still happening and people were sticking with it. And now there's some good shows.
Yeah.
Now there's some really good independent run shows. And I think, there was because I know you guys have been around for a while, but I think you guys started getting your shit together around the time I started hanging out and really benefited from that. So thanks.
Well, I had just come from trying to run a business.
Yeah.
And so I applied a lot of that to the stand-up world. And I think to a fault, especially back then, because back then I should have just been doing sets and focusing on being a better comic. But I was always trying to okay, how do we make this function? How do we make this actually work? Because there's a lot of attitude of I'm just a comic. I'm just going to fucking, I don't want to do all that stuff, which is fine. I do. I'm, I don't
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah,
Everybody, I mean, I seem really buttoned down, but I'm as lazy as anybody else, and I justify it by, I'm just a comic. It's fine. I'll do it next week.
Yeah. Well, and then when the Dab Lounge was going, that was our job. Was we had to create a show and get people to come see it, and that's how we got paid from the Dab Lounge. So I think that was when it really started to we stepped up at that point. Yeah. Things really went from this casual on the side thing to all right, now we're building a brand.
Yeah.
And that was about the time when Eric at Looney's finally started coming around to nurturing the local scene as opposed to treating everybody like competition.
Right.
And he and I butted heads. I think before you started doing comedy, I was openly calling for a boycott of Looney.
Jesus.
Because, well...
I don't remember that. I would remember that.
I still feel like I was justified. He and I have talked it out, and we're cool. You know, that's my fucking home is Looney's. Yeah. I love that place. And, but he booked me to do a weekend. I was hosting at this point. And I said, I can do your weekend, but I can't do Saturday. What I didn't tell him is that I had a show somewhere else on Saturday. And my show was at the Red Room out in Manitou. And then fucking Charlie McMullen goes through and makes a poster and invites everybody.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And he specifically invited Eric from Looney's to this show.
God.
And so I get a message from Eric, and he's like, hey, if you're going to compete with me, I don't need you to work my club at all. And he canceled my whole weekend. And that pissed me off. I was like, look, if I was in a band, you couldn't tell me that I can only play your club.
Right.
You know, and if I'm booked on Saturday, I'm fucking booked on Saturday. Yeah. My policy is if it's on my calendar first, that's what I do.
Right.
I sold my Tom Segura tickets when he was taping a special in Denver because I had some shitbag show booked in Canyon City.
Oh my God.
So
who's the guy in Canyon City? I want to work Canyon City.
I'm the guy in Canyon City.
We'll
do something.
Yeah, we'll do something.
As far as I know, there's nobody out there. The guy who booked me for that was like a karaoke DJ dude, and he dabbled in comedy, and he ended up being a real piece of shit. So I'm not gonna send anybody else to that guy. And the other guy, I had my worst show of my fucking life in Canyon City. You want to talk about money? Here's a weird money story. So this kid, I'll tell you a story. We can wrap it up.
Yeah.
This kid books me to do a show in Canyon City. He saw me host the open mic at Looney's.
Okay.
He's a total open micer. Just graduated from high school. He's a young kid. And he's like, you're funny. I want you to come do this show. You'll be the opener. I'm headlining.
Oh, God.
I'm like, okay. What does it pay? You know, he's like, I'm going to pay you a whole 9 yards. I'm like, okay. He said I think the tickets were $10 and he gets $5 and I get 2 of that. So I get $2 for every ticket that's sold. I get to the show. It's in a massive, it's like a gym. This place is huge.
Oh, no.
And I think you're making assumptions. So it's sold out.
What?
It's sold out. It's like 175 seats or something. Probably more than that. I don't know. It was like a dance hall type place.
Yeah.
Anyways, a giant place and it's sold out. Turns out this kid his dad is one of the larger employers in Canyon City. So everybody knows him. He's also big in like the church youth group and stuff. So there's a lot of churchy people there. There were kids, like children.
Yeah.
And I go, who's hosting? You know, I get to the show. I'm like, who's the host? And he's like, oh, I figured you would open and then you introduce me. So it's me and then him.
Yeah.
I'm doing 30 minutes. And then he's headlining. And I go, did you guys do a sound check? And he's like, I don't know. There's well over 100 people there. It might be 200. I don't remember exactly. So
I hate this story. This isn't fun for me listening to it.
So I go out there, and the mic's not working. There's no mic whatsoever. And I have to go out cold because there's nobody introducing me.
Yeah.
There's no pre-show music playing. Right. There's no nothing. The lights go down. I wait a few seconds and then I go out. So I have to settle people down. At least
the lights came down.
Yes. I have to settle people down. I have to open strong. I have to do 30 fucking minutes. And it's me in front of church people, children. My material is R-rated, hardcore. Yeah. People were walking out.
Yeah.
And I did my 30 minutes.
Yeah, goddamn right you did your 30 minutes.
They fucking hated me. I have never been more hated after a show.
Yeah.
And I was like, I ended my set. I was like, hey, you guys aren't here for me. Enough out of me. Let me bring out the hometown hero. And I gave him a big rounding, you've seen those. I fucking build you up.
Yeah.
And he got a huge ovation when he came out.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, this kid did 45 minutes of the most hacky shit. The most fucking... He was doing Facebook meme jokes. And and I'm not kidding, this is the worst thing I've ever seen somebody do on a stage. He literally was like, have you ever seen this movie? You know that scene in the movie? And then he described the scene from the movie. And that was it. That was funny, right? We have that in common.
Yeah.
He murdered.
Yeah.
They loved him.
Of course they did.
The fucking roof came off of that place. I got paid like $260. And I went...
Worth it.
Yes.
Worth it.
I went straight from Canyon City to the strip club. And I got like 3 lap dances in a row. And I put that set behind me, dude. I was like, fuck Canyon City. I got emails.
I would have put that $200 in savings.
No, I spent all of it. Immediately. It was blood money. I did not want it. No, I got emails after that set. That was the worst. I think still to this day the worst set I've ever had.
That's hilarious.
I called a girl a cunt in front of her mother one time. And that was worse than that night.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you got paid, and you didn't want it.
I did it.
Not as much.
It
as
was
you
a learning experience. I always tell people. I don't give a lot of advice because I'm still pretty new to this too. I've only been doing it 9 years. I just broke 9 years. The only thing I say is just keep doing it. Just keep going. Yeah. And there's no such thing as a bad set.
Right.
If it sucks, you learn from it.
Yeah.
Just adjust and do something different next time. And you get that scar tissue. Like, you didn't die from it. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. Maybe somebody's not going to come to your next show, but who gives a fuck? If you got laughs, you're good, Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, let me ask you one last creative question.
Yeah.
Okay. You're right, bombing. But not the worst thing in the world. But do you ever just know going in, I'm going to bomb this set, but I have these jokes to work out. I'm not deviating from that because that's what I have to do.
Ooh.
Or do you always try to get them? Like at a book show, it's your responsibility to get them. But if I'm at an open mic, I'd rather bomb doing the set I'm working on, even if I know this isn't going to work with this crowd.
Yeah, I think always on some level I'm trying to smash.
Yeah.
And that's just maybe my competitive nature. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Sam Talent specifically told me that. Like one time we were just sitting around shooting the shit and I asked him, if you're going up in front of somebody that you respect, should you try to blow the roof off the place or should you just get through the set and let them have the spotlight? Yeah. And he was like, no, always smash.
Yeah.
He's like, always smash. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I took that to heart. And I buried headliners at Looney's that way.
Yeah, which is fun to watch. If you ever get to watch John Brown open for somebody who's not as good as he is, it's a lot of fun to watch.
I'm a little mean-spirited about it sometimes, but if I don't like the guy, I'll fucking put you in the ground. Anyway, let's not.
That'll get you in trouble, John. You shouldn't do that.
Hey, be a better comic. That's all I'm saying. No, but I always on some level try to do well because that's the goal, right?
Right.
Even if it's a brand new joke, you want to practice like you're going to play,
Right.
That to make a sports analogy, that's what we were always told. And so I hit it like I'm going to hit it, and if it doesn't work, then I know, all right, well But you do have to make adjustments,
right.
Like at Gallery Below, I can't stand at the edge of the stage and scream at people like I do in other places. So
right.
It's all a practice of being present and also, have you gotten to the point where you're talking and delivering jokes, but you're having a completely independent thought behind that? Like
definitely with jokes that are. Like jokes on my album.
Yeah,
yes,
like muscle memory type shit.
Yeah. Which I'm, trying not to do those jokes so I can work on the next thing. It's just sometimes they're a crutch when you need to crush on a set.
Right. Well, and this is something that I did back in the Peak 31 days that I think was really valuable, is I stopped writing material for a while, and I started just going up and fucking around. Right. And just ad-libbing and doing that. And I kind of writing on stage, and because I would come back to stuff and work it around, but it really helped with that skill of like being present and having the appropriate energy for the room that you're in and all that stuff. But I always try to crank it up. Yeah. You know, I'm going to go in there and try to
Well, yeah, I mean people, that's always your vibe. You're not I mean it was a real learning experience for me. I don't exactly know what clicked, but it was like very early on I wanted to be a low energy Dan Mintz type comic. Right. And I realized, oh no, I'm chubby and my voice isn't very interesting. I'm going to have to be Patton Oswalt. Right. You know, who is more, I think I shifted towards being bigger, and that helped comedy a lot.
Well, I mean, what we're talking about here is finding your voice, right? Yeah. It's, figuring out the most effective and essentially efficient way to express yourself and strip away all the bullshit. Yeah. When you were trying to be Dan Mintz, that was an affectation, and people could see through that. You know, I think when I start getting angry and yelling about something, people understand that that's something I legitimately am angry about. You know, I'm not fucking around. And sometimes, you know, through repetition, that becomes like the what started out as a genuine feeling starts to become like, all right, now I'm acting. Yeah. And that's kind of where my act started to get, where I have to transition away from it.
You know all the words to this poem. Right. I feel like with a lot of jokes, you get to the point where it's the best it's going to ever be, and that's when it stops growing. Yeah. Like the day you finally nail it is the best it's ever going to be. And if it's good enough, you can keep it in the act. But, you know, there are jokes that finally killed after months, and I never did them again. Really? Because they were done.
You were just tired of them?
Yeah, I was like, nope, I figured that out. Finally, I got the puzzle right. Oh, okay. You know, now I'm never going to speak those words again.
Well, see, that's a skill you gotta start to figure out. Like, keep that fresh in your mind and still use it, because now you've got an extra weapon in your arsenal. You know, that's how you build your set and become a marketable comic. You have these murderous jokes, you know what I mean? Like, not to brag on myself, but when I did World Series of Comedy successfully, I've failed at it twice since I did it. Didn't even advance. Both years. I won first place, and then I didn't.
I went last year. You were kind of fucked.
Like, well, last year I just did a guest set. I didn't participate last year.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, okay.
I just did a guest set. But it was...
Yeah, I just remembered you having a really good set, so I assumed you were fucked.
Yeah, no, I murdered. But anyway... what was I saying? Oh, I was able to do different sets for each round. Right. And each of those sets was good because I had a 30-minute set. Right. So I was just taking chunks. I took 5 chunks and said boom, 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 boom. And that's how I won. But when I got to Vegas, the actual like professionals and the bookers and stuff, when I didn't advance after the second round, they came up to me and they're like, what the fuck did you do? Why did you change your act? And I was like, well, because that's how I succeeded, you know, the last time. And they were like, no, we want to see that you can be consistent. We want to see your... So I don't know...
That's a weird take. That's a weird fucking take.
And I kind of looked at him sideways. It was like 3 people came up to me at the same time. The judges. You know, I was thanking the judges, and they were like, you know, they all were talking to me. They're like, you did so well in the first round. What the fuck? And I was like, but I wanted to let people know that I have more than 5 minutes, you know? Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt. I think contests are bullshit, even though I run contests myself sometimes. I just think it's another opportunity to showcase comedy. It's just a set.
Exactly. It's the work.
That's
all it is. It's the work. You got to go do a set, hopefully in a full comedy club.
Right.
It's
all just, it's so subjective. It's just getting yourself in front of as many people as possible, so that the ones who are gonna like you see you and keep following you.
Yeah.
And that's really the name of the game.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we should probably wrap it up.
Thanks, man. I don't think I've had a conversation this long for 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, it's been weird getting back into talking to people other than my wife and my cat.
Yeah.
It's been fun though, getting to do these, actually interacting with humans.
Well, look me up, Spirit House Comedy. Buy tickets. We only have 100 tickets available for July. When is it? Are you gonna put this
you know
out?
what? This isn't going up until August.
Okay,
just give them your face.
Just find Spirit House Comedy. That's me, John Brown. I have the bandana. I wear the bandana all stupid, but I do.
He's wearing it now.
It's marketing.
He's in his house.
It's a security blanket, is what it is.
All right, yeah, and I gave all my bullshit at the beginning, so I will talk to you guys later.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Unironically, even.
That's right. Unironically.
I mean that.
Yeah, I know you do.
I sound like I don't mean it, but I totally do.
Well, now we're canceled.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.